We in the USA used to live in a remarkable economy. Why has it gone off the rails? That's what I'm here to tell you. Part 1 of the Body Economic re-evolves some principles based on common sense and commonly accepted classical economic principles. Part 2 will create the Body Economic Model. There are two primary models currently screwing up economies for everybody. Marxism is collective nonsense, and capitalism is inherently corrupt. They're just political systems searching for different kinds of monopolies. A working model of an economy should be the same as the anatomical model for medicine, an organized structure of interconnected systems with one common goal: health. Learn what makes them tick and then figure out how to fix them when they break down. Economics is known to be the science of how people deal with scarcity. Our needs for scarce resources are the primary drivers of our existence. Our wants for the remainder are next. We deal with scarcity in two ways: satisfaction of our needs and satisfaction of our wants. We must satisfy our needs to survive, while our wants are requested by our egos. It is this separation between our biology and our desires, our outer and inner selves, that creates an economy, an active separation that happens every moment with all individuals. Our needs are for air, water, food, security, society, and purpose. Resources like air and water can't be privately owned, but we should publicly own them in common, because only resources that are owned will be protected. Our common biology requires satisfaction of the same needs, and so our rights to them must be protected. We have our needs in common with each other, but our wants are entirely individual. Economies are the result of the ego's reaction to the reduction in attention to needs. Our wants are fed and grown by surplus products, an abundance that technology has made available. Supply and demand must freely meet in the marketplace. Unless they are free to find a natural equilibrium where buyer meets seller, then there is either over or underproduction of scarce resources. This results in loss of our public property. Inefficient use of our public property is theft. There is only one requirement for a competitive free market: property rights. Property rights are the ownership and control over resources or goods. There is only public and private property. For an economy to balance itself, everything must be owned. Private property is a natural resource mixed with labor. Public property is everything existing in the physical world. Thus, we have the simple understanding that private property is created by adding labor to public property. These private properties are the building blocks that form a free market economy to fill our wants. Demand drives free markets, and supply responds to demand. Economic demand is how much of a product we are willing and able to pay for. This demand is a rational filter through which our irrational wants must pass to enter an economy. The other half of demand's yin is supply's yang. If there is a demand for something and it can be made profitably, then somebody will make that product. But supply is not the product that is the result of the production process. These are at opposite ends of the same supply line. Supply and demand curves meet in an equilibrium point where market price meets market quantity. Supply and demand are in a perpetual dance with each other, searching for equilibrium. It is the combination of these meetings that creates the free marketplace, the accumulation of very many equilibrium points. The reason markets can react in this manner is because of feedback loops. Negative feedback is where information is fed back into the system and acts to regulate it. Positive feedback is usually considered to be unstable, although it is how an economy becomes wealthier. The provider of products for supply is the production process, as wants are the provider for demand. The production process breaks down resource inputs to make them into product outputs. The driver of this process is profit. Technologies are inserted into production processes to make them more efficient. But it is not technology itself that makes production more efficient. It is application of technology to an already existing production process that does. Technology is repeatedly introduced into the process to make it more efficient. The input factors to the process are production costs. These costs are an inherent inefficiency in production because nothing can be made for free in an economy. The primary production problem is not that inefficiency exists, but it is not acknowledged to be theft of our public property, and the free market is the best method of managing this theft. Whoever makes the decisions about what to produce is the producer. The distinction here is between the cook, producer, the food, inputs, the cooking, process, and the meal, product. The producer hires people to assist with decisions and creates a business structure. These people command and control the production process. The 1001 daily decisions required to make a product need to be made by somebody. They also communicate to determine how much quantity of product to make and to know if the quality of product is crap or superb. Finally, they integrate the entire production area of an economy. This is done by way of national standard organizations, manufacturers associations, and similar groups. Ultimately, producers balance production through feedback. We all act in our own self-interest to create demand. Of similar importance is the profit motive, which drives production and thereby supply. We can see these innate drives as a need for purpose in our lives, just like we need natural resources, security, and society. There is also a communal economic purpose. The essentials of society are provided by an invisible heart, like the hand, that is the result of our multiple profit motives and self-interest acting to seek equilibrium. This mass interplay of forces in opposition is something that the intangible free market seeks on its own. Profit is the necessary reward for people who risk their private property in the free market. Many people claim that profit motive and self-interest are evil because they are not driven by these economic interests. There are other purposes that come out of people, like compassion, creativity, order, and reproduction. There are 4 stages to any business cycle: expansion, crisis, recession, recovery. Purpose causes business cycles when it is expressed as creativity. We all know of this insertion of creativity into an economy as technology. This creative destruction brings in new technology and expels stagnant technology. Creativity starts a positive cycle, and an economy will react negatively to seek equilibrium. The economy must balance around positive and negative halves of the business cycle. This is the FIG rule. Fuck you, Greenspan. The recessions caused by the business cycle are normal. Natural and financial economic shocks are not. We are always riding on some part of the business cycle when a shock hits. But if the loss is replaced and the free market is left alone, then the cycle will reassert itself and new technology will take an economy back to a new high. It never left. There's scarcity in all parts of an economy. Scarcity cost. All actors in an economy use a cost-benefit analysis to make choices about these costs and associated benefits. This practice of choice is everywhere inside an economy. We humans thrust choice into an economic system just like purpose. Through billions of individual actions, an economy chooses what is beneficial and removes detrimental products from an economy. The free market in an economy seeks equilibrium. It does this by continuously filtering supply and demand. However, if our freedom to choose is limited, then the feedback an economy requires to find balance is also limited. No economy can be wealthy without a strong infrastructure. Hard infrastructure is generally founded upon some type of utility monopoly. This provides a framework on which an economy is supported. Soft infrastructure is more personal, like education, health and emergency services, legal protections, and credit. Soft infrastructure is valuable because the wealth of an economy is dependent upon its people. The more value the people have, the more value an economy has. Hard and soft infrastructure work together to make an economy wealthier. They bind the disparate elements of an economy together to work as one. They also assist purpose in moving an economy. The source of all the noise around us and the ability to extract valuable information from it are both available from the media. Written media used to fill this niche, but bias and technology have increased the noise to the point where we can't discern the information. A viable media gives us a method of filtering valuable information from the noise it is in. When the media is filtering the noise, it can protect an economy from itself. The first source of information should be the press. A free, open, unbiased, and respectable four-square press can serve a vital role to an economy. A second source for valuable information are consumer reports, watchdogs, and free associations. It is their business to find out which products perform best. Finances are formed like manufactured products. Inputs are combined to make profitable outputs. In this case, the outputs are financial products. These financial products are then sold in a free financial market in virtually the same way as other products. Money is normally treated as a commodity. In reality, currency is a movement of value. Currency is a moving record that a transaction of value has occurred. Try viewing it as something like a sine wave. always changing. When an economic transaction takes place, buyer and seller must agree on the value of currency at an instant in time. Currency is worth so much product, not the other way around. If you buy a truck, it is not worth $30,000. $30,000 is worth one truck. Currency is the frequency of change in values attached to private property. The other major part of finance is debts and assets, opposite sides of the same coin. These financial instruments are the output created by financiers to be traded in the financial market. Debt is the private property produced by the financial process. To protect the financial market, we need people who are just as motivated as the financiers. We need criminals to watch the criminals, something like the Fed but truly independent of the government. I refer to this organization as the SINC, short for central bank. Capitalism and Marxism must be removed from their influence on government. But government itself is not only here to stay, it is required for a healthy economy. Put aside the nonsense about the best form of government. Governments swing back and forth between democracy, elitism, and dictatorship, authority and liberty battling for dominance. Each of these types will eventually die, and there is nothing anybody can do about it. Citizens also do not have a contract with their government. A contract is only possible between equal partners, or if there is a higher power to make sure it is enforceable. To restrain an omnipotent government, there needs to be an equally powerful partner to it. Separating management of a nation into civil and financial authorities, government and SINC, is the only practical way of restraining either one. The laws and regulations a government creates form the environment in which an economy operates. Imagine an economy is a fish. If an economy is put in water, it will thrive. If it is put in air, it will not. An economy, like the fish, evolves to exist in a specific environment. A civil government should be devoted to managing the public property required for our needs. The other sovereign should be responsible for all things financial. Two completely separate manifestations of authority with two completely separate methods of taxation are required for a balance between these sovereigns. Taxation should be limited to the point where an economy is healthy and growing wealth, and most important for any sovereign, the rate that brings in maximum revenue. There must be some point where taxes become too much and an economy will be harmed. Government operations should be funded by taxing our public property by way of a flat national sales tax, which should fund all levels of government, federal, state, and local. This national sales tax must be equally assessed and distributed. Every citizen should receive the same largesse from the government, rich and poor alike. The social services poor citizens require should now be the responsibility of the SINC sovereign. Finances, retirement, health care, housing, sanitation, clothing, education, credit, and unemployment. These operations should be funded by duties on profit. It is just and fair that the reason for the creation of poverty, profit, should be the means to pay for it. There are two types of poverty, absolute and relative. Absolute poverty is the lack of an ability to satisfy our needs. If satisfaction of our needs is a basic human right, then a poverty of needs is actually a poverty of rights. Relative poverty is defined by the wants of the society in which a person lives. A poverty of responsibility literally means your relative poverty is caused by the lack of your responsibility for your situation. Children are not responsible for being born poor. Addicts are responsible for their bad choices. The separation of needs from wants creates an economy, and it also creates poverty. Poverty is the unwanted byproduct of an economy. As long as we have scarcity of natural resources, we will have an economy. And as long as we have that, we will have poverty. Poverty cannot be eliminated from an economy because it is already not part of it. To an economy, poverty is waste. It expels it and then ignores it. We should treat ourselves better. That is all.